Quick thing before we get started. If you disappeared from your agency for 30 days, no calls, no emails, no Slack, would it survive? Would it thrive? Would it decline? If you hesitated, I get it. I spent 12 years building my agency, and for the most part of that, I was actually the ceiling. Every decision, every client, every fire, all me. I wrote a book about what actually needed to change. It's called Operator to Owner, and it lays out the 5 identity shifts every founder has to make to stop being that bottleneck. So go to operatortoownerevolution.com. That's operatortoownerevolution.com and grab your copy. You're listening to the Smart Agency Masterclass with me, Jason Swank, and we're bringing you this episode courtesy of our friends at Wix Studio. Let's go ahead and get into the show. Hey, Oliver, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Thanks for having me, Jason. Happy to be here with you.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on. Tell us who you are, what you do.
Sure. So with my wife, we run an agency called Bridge Media. We've been around for about 23 years. Although a lot of the time beginning it was mainly just me as a consultant. That's who Bridge Media was. And then my wife did some marketing courses, and then she started offering some services under a company, but she was basically freelancing as well. And I would say about maybe 6 years ago, we kind of got serious about it, and we started actually growing out a team and offering services that didn't just depend on us. So it's been an interesting transition and a learning experience.
What was the shift that you wanted to start bringing on, like, more people outside of you two?
Sure. I would say we started off thinking, hey, let's do our own thing so we can have more time. Right?
How'd that work out for you?
Exactly. So we don't have to do the 9 to 5. And I had this idea that, if we're able to be on our own, we'll be more flexible with our schedules. We'll be able to decide when we want to work. And then you realize that works, but you've got to be really, really also, there's 2 parts of it, right? There's what you want to do with your time, and then your clients, right? What are they expecting as services, and how much time do you have to deliver? And that kind of also puts a constraint a little bit on where your schedule. So having extra people, the idea was, well, we got a ton of work. Maybe we can bring in some people and they can help out. We'll tell them what to do, and they'll do some of the work, and then also, again, free up time for us. So, yeah.
It's kind of partly true, right?
Yes.
When we start an agency or a business, we're like, yeah, I don't want a 9 to 5 job, which is totally true. You have a 24/7 job.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Entrepreneurs are the ones who trade the 9 to 5 to 40 hours a week to 80 hours a week. And freedom.
Right. Not in the beginning, right? Like,
no.
I think everyone thinks that. They go, I want to create a business, so I have freedom. I can do whatever I want. But
yes,
in the very beginning, you're that operator, and as an operator, the business owns you.
Yes, exactly. And I think I would say fundamentally, there's an element which is a minimum of passion. I think a lot of people that get into this are kind of passionate about what they're doing, and they care about doing good work. That's my experience anyways. I haven't seen very many that started a business that, just wanted to coast. Generally, they'll just get a corporate job and that, they'll get by that way. So there's kind of an idea of wanting to do good work and also having, wanting a bit more freedom and flexibility. And I think that, reality catches up at the beginning where you got to be the operator and you have to deliver. And I think for us anyways, it's also a wake-up call to how good am I really, right? Am I really able to do excellent work for clients in 2 hours, right? Or do I need to spend a day or 2 working on, this project to be able to do a good job? And I think you kind of get confronted to that when, you meet potential clients and they're comparing you to other offers. You have to be able to level up.
Yeah. I always found in the very beginning, or even for a while, right, I would focus on sales and then operations would suffer. I would focus on operations and sales would suffer. And it was just a roller coaster ride where a lot of times I wanted to get off. And I thought the only way off, and I'll be curious, when you started bringing on people, did you think bringing on people and managing them, that would give you back your time?
We did. And I would say we were kind of naive at the beginning in terms of sales. We started off much more focused on operations. We didn't have a very strong sales function until maybe 2 years ago. Like we just figured, hey, if we do good work, we'll get referrals, and we were not, in any niche, and we were kind of known locally. So we don't, we did a couple of local events, and we were kind of known in our local area, and it worked. It brought a ton of problems as well, but I did, yes. But to answer your question, adding people, the goal was to give us time, and then you realize you might not be operating as much because they're doing things, but now you got to manage people, which you didn't have when you were on your own, right? You just organize your calendar and organize your schedule, and you knew what you were doing that afternoon. Now you got to organize your calendar, but you got to look at other people's schedule and
you
see,
have more
hey, are they aligned? Yeah.
Yeah. What I found was when I first started hiring people and managing them, I had to do my work and their work.
Yes.
And manage them and still pay them. And I'm like, wait a minute. Like, this doesn't make any sense.
No.
Like, I hired you, but I'm doing your work.
That's
and
true.
I'm managing you and I'm paying you. Like, did you go through that too?
Yes, 100%. And I actually thought it was really eye-opening to understand a little bit more the other side of the coin from being an employee. Like, I think that as an employee, you're kind of just used to being hired by a company, and they pay your hours and they give you training. And I think there's a lot of that I took for granted that I just thought was normal. It was expected, right? And then when you're on the other side, you realize, hey, you can't really take all these things for granted, because now you got to provide, all those services and the support to the team, and helping them with whatever's going on, and clarifying roles, responsibilities, managing their work. 100%. Yeah. So whenever it's even the way now, I mean, we're not a very big team. We're 11 people. So we're still onboarding from time to time new staff, and we know it, right? The first 3 months, 6 months, we're working probably twice as hard. So we're careful in terms of what other projects we can take, because we know we're going to have to do our work, plus we have to help them with their work, and we want to have a quality. We're not just the type to kind of bring somebody on and just let them do their thing and hopefully pick up the pieces if things crash. We more want to be hands-on, review, so we basically, and redo if needed before we get work out for clients. So definitely there's more work.
Yeah. When we were kind of just chatting before we hit record, I think you asked a question. You were talking about, like, how do you motivate team members?
Yeah, that's actually something that's on my mind, because I realize that as we're growing as a business and as we're growing as entrepreneurs, our role is changing, right? So we used to be the operator, and then you become the manager, and then you kind of want to be able to level up a little bit. And eventually, I do think it's normal for a business to run without the owner necessarily being hands-on, right? I mean, if you think of any public company that's on the stock market, the owners are all the shareholders. That doesn't mean they're, in every meeting and checking up on the team. So you do want to have that independence. What I'm kind of worried and trying to think through right now is, how do we manage culture during that transition, right? Just because the owner is not around as much and is giving more freedom and delegating responsibility, does that affect the perception that we're checking out, and that maybe the team, we're not, doesn't have to work as hard either, right? Like if the boss is away on Friday afternoons, or isn't always around on, every day, because their role is different. Well, what about everybody else?
Look, your agency adapts for every client, right? Your builder should do the same. That's why Wix Studio is built for the way you actually create. AI-powered site mapping lets you get straight down to the design. Whether you shape things in Figma or start in Studio, your vision's coming to life quicker with no-code animations and built-in responsiveness. And for client growth that actually scale, you've got extendable business solutions and a dynamic CMS. Scale your agency at wixstudio.com. So there's a couple things to unpack there. Okay.
Sure.
The first one is, whenever I realized, like when I sold my agency, I learned this, because now I was an employee. And I realized that the right team members, you will never have to motivate.
Mm-hmm.
but you'll worry about demotivating them. And so I remember going to the CEO, and I had this great idea around social CRM and all this kind of really cool stuff, and just totally dream squashed the idea. So I was demotivated. And
I
from
get it.
then, I was the worst team member ever because I was like, screw you.
Yeah.
Like, that was just an asshole move. And, I was totally motivated. But then I learned from that, looking back, if you hire the right people, all you have to do is worry about demotivating them. The other part is when you're the operator, you're working 80 hours a week. When you're the manager, you're working 100 hours a week. And you have to quickly get out of that manager stage and get to an architect stage. This is the only way that you can start reducing your hours is you have to start installing systems or layers in place when hiring the right people that can manage themselves, that they can follow a system that doesn't require you as the bottleneck.
Yeah.
Because you as the bottleneck will just keep adding the hours. But then there's a mental shift that happens, right? Where you're used to working 80, 100-hour weeks, and then you start feeling bad. You think your effort that you put in or the amount of time you put in is your effort and your contribution to the company, but you have to realize it's not. Because when you get to the architect level, then it should go back down to 40. And when you get to the CEO level, and this is the big mind, shit that was going on in my mind, where to do a CEO stuff, it really is only 20 hours a week. And then you start feeling bad.
Yeah.
Like I say that to everyone listening, I want that CEO, right? Like I want to get 20 hours. But then you literally start feeling bad and you start self-sabotaging stuff.
Yes.
And it's kind of like this rubber band effect, I call it, where you're like, well, I want to feel significance. I want to contribute. I go into a creative meeting. I'm going to do it my way. But then psychologically, you demotivate people because you took their responsibility away. And then the agency goes back down.
That's true.
Right? Like it's just, that's kind of the evolution that we have to think about. And right. And that's why, shameless plug. That's why, I developed this book, Operator to Owner, to kind of help people with that shift.
Yes.
That's what I went through. That's what you're probably going through right now.
Yeah, exactly. I think so. You're right. Because we do feel bad, right? Because we're like, hey, I think you kind of get used to being in the trenches, right, with the team, and we're really strong. I would say our company culture is very much about teamwork, and I don't think we're the only ones. I think a lot of people who care about the work, who care about their clients, and also will care about their team members. I think that's kind of a common trait of a lot of small businesses. We want to feel like, hey, we're all in this together, and we're creating a great company culture, and everybody's, there's a problem, we help each other out, and we want to instill a lot of great habits and practices and just reflexes, right? Good company culture around teamwork and helping each other out. And then shifting the role is different and difficult, I think, as you're saying.
Well, you got to realize that the business doesn't need you for the old stuff anymore. It needs you for the new stuff. And like when you make it to the CEO stage, that I call it, you're setting the vision and you're communicating it to the team all the time. You're protecting that culture, not by doing the work, but by, just showing people the values, and you're coaching your leadership team. You're also figuring out, where we're steering the ship, which goes back to the vision. You're being the face of the organization. But what you have to realize is a lot of times when I would go on vacation, the business would do better because I was the bottleneck. I would try to mess stuff up. So that's I felt important. Right. And I think your team, like right now, like I don't take on any meetings on Monday. Most of the time, like I'm kind of just get ready for the week. I only do Tuesday through Thursdays from 9 to 2 is when I really kind of do the majority of the meetings or podcast interviews like this. And then Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, I don't do anything.
Wow.
Right? But that works for me. But here's the deal. I'm accessible to my team or members at any time.
Yeah.
That's what, right? That's what you have to, like, if they have a question, cool. They know they can hit me up. I'm not
Sure.
busy, but I'm
No.
ready for that to
Yeah.
advise them.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah. It's really, I guess it's about clarifying the communication and kind of the expectations, right, on either side about how to organize things. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
It's just an evolution. That's all
Yeah.
you have to think about is your agency will never outgrow you if
No,
you're in charge.
that's true.
And
That's true.
so you have to constantly think about, how do I get better? And then as you get better, your job is, how can I coach and make the team better?
That's
Whether
true.
it be like, like at the architect level, you're building systems to help them better. Maybe you're building, and building stuff in AI and creating AI agents for them,
Mm-hmm.
right? But then when you get to the CO level, they should be building AI agents for themselves
Yes.
and
Yeah.
building systems, right?
Yes.
But whatever stage anybody's at, that's the starting point. And then
Makes sense.
you're supposed to go up.
Yeah.
You can't go back down, right? Like, and I've done it, right? Like, I continue to do it in this business. Like, if you talk to my team, they're like, yeah, Jason, you keep fucking this part up. Like, I get it, right? Like,
Yeah, I get it. But anyways, one of the things I'm trying to think through as well is I think sometimes our strengths, as an entrepreneur, I think when you're starting off, your strength is usually like your personal strengths, right? The things that you're really good at are often what will be distinctive and allow you to have an advantage and have an edge and be able to stand out and do really good work. So if you're really creative, or I have I'm really strong in programming, right? I started programming, I was 9 years old, and I have a degree in computer science, and so that's been my big strength of mine. I think it helps at the beginning, and I'm not sure, but I kind of have the impression that as you evolve as an entrepreneur, it can actually become a hindrance, because it's very easy and hard for me to stay away from just fixing the problem, because I'm often better than the people that are there. And then that becomes a difficult reflex. So it's good to, I guess, as we're talking about this, it's good to elevate the standard, right? And say, this is what we should be doing, but not necessarily jumping in and always fixing it, because I could.
well, I was telling people at our event we had last week, you got to let the fender benders happen, but yank them out of the car if they're about to, kill themselves and go off the cliff.
Yeah.
Right. And so you got to kind of realize that, like Darby on our team, he was telling a member the other day, it's like, you got to take the floaties off. Like, and you got to look at it where, how can I make my team better? Especially with AI, right? Like,
yes,
I honestly, I have a computer science degree, but there was a problem when I graduated, I paid people like you to do my work. So I learned how to outsource. So I didn't know how to program, but I understand the logic, right? So I think that's the key in today's world with AI, because I'm constantly thinking, like, this happened the other day. We were thinking about our workflow with the podcast and all the different things that go into it. And we're trying to make it more efficient. And so I went to Stacy on our team that's in charge of that. And I said, we can do all this in AI. And so I built it in front of her. And then what do you think I did? Deleted it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I deleted it in front of her. And I go, you go build this. Because I can teach someone, or I can give someone the fish, or I can teach them the fish.
Exactly.
And so I want my team to be able to build this stuff.
Yes.
And to get better, right? Like, it could have been done. Like, it was completely done in front of her. She was probably really pissed. But she'll love me later on.
Yeah. But I mean, I think that requires a lot of good communication, right? And again, I think it's really important to be clear in terms of the role, right? What you're telling her is, I can show you what to do, but I'm not going to be able to do it for you, because that's not Jason's role. That's Stacy's role. And so I think that's, if she's aware of that too, then that's
well, they
really
see
important.
What's possible, right?
Yeah.
But I do think there's standards that we have within every company, and
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of the goal of where things are going, right? Like most
Yep.
people, like most of us listening, and I have on the show, where we started this stuff by accident, and we were reactive to the market, kind of like you, right? Like we're
Yep.
like, hey, we were active for 12 years and then finally got serious, later on. We all go through that. Like I
Yeah.
went through that selling
Yeah.
$500 websites and then,
Yeah.
eventually adding a couple zeros to it. So
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And how do you see? Um, you mentioned something like you got to let the Rex happen sometimes. And I think that is something we're kind of paranoid about. We're paranoid about our clients not being happy, and we're a little bit, when you're a small business, like your reputation counts, and contracts are hard to come by, and we're really feel a very strong sense of responsibility towards our clients that are entrusting us and asking us to do work. So I think there's that. We're still trying to figure out how do we have that balance between letting the team not micromanaging, which I think is really bad, and then not having to be
it sounds like
involved.
you're micromanaging
It does.
them.
It does. It is, and I think we do. And then how do we step back and allow mistakes to happen? And are we like? I know that it's limiting our growth. I think I am aware of it. It's just probably like an emotional thing where
there has to be it's kind of like, why do people decide to change their diet to be healthier? There has to
Mm-hmm.
be a turning point, something big, where the risk at not changing is greater than the risk of changing, right? Like that's the only way. Like there's a lot of people that join our community and they come in like, I'm going to change the world, and then they're like, I can lead them to water, but they're not going to.
Yeah.
Right there has to be, like, they have to make a decision, and you have to figure out like the why behind that only
Yeah.
you can, right? Like, so you have to be like, probably the breaking point I see on most agencies are, you're just such the bottleneck for everything, and you're working so hard, you don't have time off. Like there's a client I'm working with right now that they work 6 days a week. They've also not saved up a lot of money, and they're banking on selling the agency for their retirement.
Yeah.
Right? Like, like you have to make a choice.
Yes.
And it's either a short term or a long term decision. Mm-hmm. And it takes everyone a different amount of time.
Yeah.
And we all get there, hopefully eventually, but it's just, how fast are you going to get there? If you have built a solid agency in the legal, the dental, the medical, or the home services, and you're thinking about the next chapter, you need to know about Herringbone Digital. They're not your typical financial buyer. They're the team that understands the challenges of running and scaling an agency because they've actually done it. And they know how lonely it can be by yourself. Now, I've personally spent a lot of time with them, and they're the real deal. Heck, in the first year, they've acquired 6 agencies, including Hennessy Digital. That should tell you the caliber of partner that they're actually looking for. Now, their model is very simple. They invest in great founders. They protect what's working, and they help you scale faster. Now, while giving you the opportunity to take some chips off that table, they also give you a second bite when they actually sell the bigger agency. So if you're thinking about exiting now, or maybe in a few years, or if you want to know what your options could be, make sure you go to herringbonedigital.com/swank to start that conversation. That's herringbonedigital.com/swank.
Yeah. Interesting. So would you say like, how much? What's an acceptable failure rate, like for projects? It's like
well, you got to think, what's failure, right? Is it a train wreck or a fender bender, right? But
that's true.
I always tell people, if it's 80% of what I would have outputted, that's a success.
Yeah.
And then my job as the CEO is to coach that team, that person, right? in
Mm-hmm.
order to get 82 and then 85, right? Like it
Yeah.
can't be perfect. But it also goes back to, I see a lot of agencies struggling where they said exactly that you said, our reputation is everything, which I agree. Um, but it goes back to, did I take on the right client?
Yes.
Did I, if I have a healthy pipeline where I can pick and choose only the perfect clients that I know
Mm-hmm.
we can hit a home run,
Yeah.
right? So there's multiple
Yeah.
things that
Yeah.
set you up for failure
That's
to
true.
keep you kind of at this level
Yeah.
that you need to kind of fix. And that's a lot of times it's hard to see when you're in it.
It is. It is. I agree. I agree. Yeah. I think that's probably been our biggest transition in the last 2 years is we kind of realized that we were really struggling on delivery and operations. And, obviously the obvious thing was we didn't have a niche, and every, project was different. Every client was different. Every time we had to start over, and we had a good team, but it was really hard because it really required a lot of expertise each time. So we kind of figured out, what, if we do more work on the sales side up front, the downstream effects will be a lot easier. So we're just going to
Oh,
simplify things a lot more for the team. So now we have more marketing in place. We have a better sales function in place. We're able to, as you just said, we're able to pick, better clients. And sometimes we don't take on every client because we have a pipeline. And because of that, the projects that come in, are kind of tend to be well adapted to what the team could deliver, which means we don't have to be in there as much helping them out, or they don't need as much expertise because it's more similar from one project to the next. So I think if you're just relying on referrals and word of mouth, that feels good, but I think it can actually be, you don't always see it, but there's that really difficult effects because, anyways, from my experience, often the people who start the agency are often the best at the work, and you're
yep,
kind of creating a system where it works for you but it doesn't work for anybody else, and it becomes a trap.
exactly. Yeah. You got to realize too, is today is the day that you'll be the worst that you've ever been. Right. Especially if you hire the right people where you they're, they have the core values or the values where they want to learn every day and they want to
Mm-hmm.
get better, share success and share failures and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of the same thing when you look at AI. Like AI is the worst it will ever be right at this moment. And it will just keep getting better unless you're Claude, because Claude this week sucked. I kept challenging it and it was like, oh, yeah, you're right. I'm like, what?
Exactly.
Gotcha. Just seeing if you're checking.
Exactly. Just seeing if you're paying attention, right, Jason?
Yeah.
Have you checked your mind out, or are you actually on
Yeah.
top of this?
Like, good thing I'm not a doctor. Be like, yeah, cut the right arm off. I did. Oh, wait.
No.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
Like, oh, you bitch. Awesome.
Yeah. I think AI is going to be really interesting, and I think it's going to help, remove a lot of the menial work and allow us to focus more on strategy and on actual understanding client needs. And I think, anyways,
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to your book coming out because I think it's going to be really helpful to help with that mind shift change as entrepreneurs grow.
It's tough. I mean, but it's an evolution, and you have to have that kind of that mindset where I do want to get better versus there's some people that just want to coast. Like I try to remember, in '99 when I started, because there's two different groups. I was telling someone last week. There's the camp of people that are excited about AI, and there's the camp that they're terrified of it. And I tried to understand. I was like, when was the last major shift? Not like social media or, that was a shift, but internet was a really big shift for the world.
Yes.
AI is even bigger. And so, and I obviously was a part of that. And I tried to think, I was like, was I scared of the internet? I was like, no. And I was trying to think out, I was like, why wasn't I? And the whole reason was I didn't have anything to lose. The people that were scared and the people that are really terrified right now, they have something.
Yes.
And they're trying to protect it. And I think that's a very dangerous spot to be in. Like a lot of time. And look, some days I go in that protection mode, honestly. Like, I'm not going to lie to you. Like, I'm like, yeah, we're all fucked. And then then I go, let me dig into it more. Let me really understand this rather than hiring a company to
Yeah.
execute this. Like I
Hmm.
literally started laughing at someone. They were like, well, I'm just going to hire a company to help us with AI. I was like, that's like when the internet came out, just telling them, I'm going to hire a company just to browse on the internet.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
It
yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
make any sense.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. 100%. Yeah, exactly. Or like having your
And the more I
secretary,
understood it,
write your emails
yeah,
for you. Like,
yeah. Well, because I think the more that you understand it, the more you
yes.
understand that you're the director of it. And then the amazing gift it can give your agency if you do it the right way. But that's just my view.
No,
Could be
I
wrong.
agree. I agree. I think yeah, I was kind of like with you at the beginning of the internet when it became popular, and like you, I saw a tremendous opportunity to offer services that a lot of other established players were not offering. So it was it was kind of hard to find companies that would build websites back then,
Yeah.
um, or that could do a good job and that understood a little bit how to. It was work. It was hard because it wasn't mature yet and it wasn't developed, and you had to understand
Yeah.
basic stuff. But I think there's an opportunity for people that will want to embrace it and just use it to become. And I do think anyways, my perspective is I think we still have a couple of years, but it will be faster in terms of adoption than the internet.
Yeah.
It's going to, we're already seeing it. It's going more quickly.
Well, it took the internet 7 years to get 100 million users. It took ChatGPT 2 months.
Yeah.
2 months, right? So it's going rapid pace. But yeah, like last week I built 4 websites. Took me 3 hours,
Wow.
and
Interesting.
these were websites that I would have paid. I would have sold for 20K
Yeah.
back in the day,
Yeah.
right? Like, and we did websites for, we didn't do a 20K website for LegalZoom or Hitachi or Lotus, and those were hundreds of thousands. But
Yes.
like, I could do those sites
Yeah.
pretty quick. It's
Pretty quick. Yeah.
unbelievable.
No,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I think what it doesn't require is, I was talking to somebody, but I think what it doesn't take away is the expertise I think that we have, and I don't think
well,
it's there yet. And I think that's going to be hard to match. I mean, I know AI is right now we don't know where it's going to end. Right? Is it going to know everything and be able to do everything eventually? But the hope, our last hope, I think is just going to be at least the data we have that that AI agents might not have, because I kind of feel like a lot of the content is generic, right? The AI right now is scanning the internet and knows everything just like a search engine would, and is able to read Reddit forums and come up with a bunch of information in a way that's really easy for people to use, which is great, and it's able to knows programming, it's able to adjust. But I do think there's information it doesn't have, which is a lot, and you can tell if you give it a good context, you get much better results than if you give it, hey, build me a business plan with no context. It'll give you something really generic and vanilla.
you nailed it. You nailed it on the head. And what I didn't tell any of you about the 3 hours to do these websites was how much I trained it and all the context. And really, we built an AI operating system for our business that took a while, but now I can spin it up, right? And so that's the big difference, because we all have the same tools, but we have different data, and
Yes.
right. And so that's what really I want people to understand, because I look at it as, there's kind of 3 layers when you're building this AI operating system. One is the context, one is the workflow, and one is the decision layer, right? And when you get all those, that's when you can really deliver more efficiently, be more profitable, and create the amazing stuff that you would normally, but at a rapid pace. And that's what, people are just going to, chat GBT and with no context. Yeah, you're going to
No.
get complete garbage. And you
Yeah.
would do that the same with a team member that you just hired.
Yes.
It's the same thing. You got to give it the data, the training, the skills, all that kind of stuff. But if you're able to do that, that's when the real cool stuff
That's when it
happening.
comes. Yeah.
But cool. Well, thanks so much, Oliver, for coming on, being transparent with us, and sharing your story. It's always fun to chat with people like you to do that, and for everyone that really is want to kind of elevate or evolve their role, we do have the book Operator to Owner coming out. You can go to operatortoownerevolution.com. Go get your copy. And until next time, have a swank day.